Welcome back to the channel. Today I want to look at my tank slash small DPS build. You know, I don't want to play full tank because I think that'd be boring for like single target fights for myself personally, so I've thrown a bit of damage in here and there. You know, I've looked into a couple of builds by a few people, try and put them all together to something that I like, and we'll see how it goes and what you guys think, and you can tell me what to change if you think I need to change anything. But before we get into it, I'm giving away some lucents on this channel. If I go over here into the shop, we are giving away the not the highest one. What am I about the highest one? I can't afford that. The £42 one, the 2,875 lucent. So if that sounds great to you, make sure you stick around on the channel, subscribe, like the video, leave me a comment down below. Tell me about your build, what are you playing, and what kind of skills and stuff are you using. Let me get rid of that. So first and foremost, for my armors and stuff, these are just things that I have picked up. I haven't bothered trying to craft new things, find new things. I've just been playing the game, and whatever I get drop, I usually equip. To be fair, you know, not terrible in general. It gives me a lot of health and stuff and some resistances, but for the most part, it's probably not the most ideal top of the pops type of armor that you want. And I'll show you a little bit later about armors. So going, obviously sword, greatsword, that's where I'm going to get my damage from. This is where I'm going to get my defense from. But let's look at stats. So first and foremost, strength, right? 4 out of the 5 of these increases are all to do with tank. Melee defense, range defense, max health, health regen, and you get a little bit of an increase to base damage. So if you have an ability that you use that is affected by base damage and then you add a percentage on top, this is also going to improve the damage of that ability. I don't think I've got anything on this build that is tied to that, but you know, it's just there. So first and foremost, we're just going to take this straight up to 30. So once you hit a specific place, so like 30 for instance, strength 30, I get an extra 750 health, and then any armors and stats that you can find to add onto your build, it will push it through to the other one. So you want to get to 40 for damage reduction, you want to get to 50 for heavy attack chance, all the way up to 70 to get a whole bunch of defenses for tanks. That comes from end game gear and such things. So with dexterity, you get a big increase to your damage, obviously your main base damage. So you get a little bit of strength, but you get a lot of dexterity. So this is more your DPS side. Attack speed also as well for DPS. But you get all these critical hit chances. But the thing for the tank we're looking for is the evasions. So you're going to get huge boosts to your evasions as well as your health and your range defense. That's the tank side of it. And then for like the damage with the greatsword, we're also increasing that. So we're going to take this also up to 30. Boom. Ooh, 30, and that will also give me an extra critical hit chance for those big damaging moves what we're going to be using. Then for the remaining 9 points, they're just going into wisdom for me, because that will obviously increase my mana up and, you know, mana regen and a little bit extra into the base damage. So if I apply these now, apply, why are you not applying? Now they are all applied. So you can see I've just got all these extra defenses and stuff. Pretty goddamn incredible. So with perception, I don't particularly think it's that important for a tank with sword and shield and greatsword. I might be wrong there, but this is kind of like the build that I'm going for. When it comes to the armors, like I said, you want specific stats. So I'm just going to show the auction house as an example of this. So if I go in and I find something like the sabatons of the field general, you can see that if I was to buy these, I would lose my critical hit chance and my stun chance from my blue armor that I have, but I'll get movement speed and strength. Any armors that have that specific buff to a specific stat are going to be very important. Strength, extra kind of points will go up and make it from strength 30 to strength 40. So you want to be building in as much as possible into the base stats on terms of having them on your armors. So for instance, if I go over here to head, there's another one here with strength 3. You know, I could grab one of the other ones with perception on if I had any kind of perception build, but you're looking for armors that have specifically stat increases to the stats that you use. You can also have like get that and then also get like max health on top of it. So here, you know, you got mana regen, cooldown speed and dexterity. This is going to be for different types of character setups rather than tanks. Obviously, don't buy them from the auction house because they're extremely expensive. But if you find them in game, there's a lot of stuff you can do. So those are the types of armors you're looking for. Anything with buffs to the stat numbers themselves. And then the secondary things, like say you get max health and melee evasion plus a strength 3. That's going to be pretty good, but I don't think it comes on these armors. But you got to build around that. He's now from the future here, you know, just changing something that I said in the video which sounded wrong. So I've changed my build a little bit. Still not the perfect tank build, but I'm getting there. I'm starting to get things going. But I wanted to talk about weapon masteries because I still don't quite fully understand them, but this is the way I'm building into them. So first and foremost, the Greatsword. Obviously with the Greatsword, you want to go for like the damage build because you're going to be doing big hits and stuff, like especially when you get to the Fierce Glare, which is melee heavy attack chance. You're going to have things like Death Blow and Guillotine Blade, which should do huge damage, and this is going to help a lot. But once you get through all of your weapon mastery and you've filled up this row, you pretty much just want to pick and choose what you want from here. However, I'm not sure how this works because obviously here you got range defense plus 40. I don't know whether that's a passive for your character or when you are using your Greatsword. I believe it's a passive. It would make sense if it's a passive, but you know, I can't be sure of that. So when I've finished and got my weapon mastery here, I'm gonna have to look this up. But basically when you finish one row, you just pick and choose from the other things that you want to choose from. For instance, like having max health is a passive, so that's going to be great. Cooldown speed is going to be great too, so I'll probably end up going through here because I'm assuming max health has to be a passive. So yeah, then we got the sword, so this is your main tanky one, and I'm going through the top up here. So you know, you get your extra defense, your health regen, max health, all evasion, and then you get to heal. Shield block chance 8%. I have decided not to go down this route because I don't think buff duration is really truly needed, especially if you've got a decent healer. And then damage reduction plus 6 seems negligible. And then over here, stun resistance 125. I rarely ever get stunned in this game. You know, you can perfect block things and stuff to be able to prevent stun. So I felt like these last three here weren't really that great. So I went down to go get more max health and then hopefully get like damage reduction and stuff. I haven't decided yet, but you know, I feel like this is all you need when it comes to the defense line up here. So first and foremost, for the defense, the shield survival technique, you're going to want to max this as much as possible as soon as possible because this is just phenomenal when it comes to tanking. Now there's a whole bunch of information there which I won't really talk about, but basically when you defend against someone who uses a fury attack, you're going to get a whole big boost to your defenses, shields, health, etc. And you know, you get extra bonuses for defending within 0.5 seconds, you get better damage reduction, and just in general, your perfect defense with this is just going to work so well with tanking. You also get a retaliatory strike which does huge damage, you know, through certain parameters. I'm not going to go through that, there's a lot there, but basically your defense, your defending move, if you perfectly defend, you're going to get a whole bunch of stats and buffs that you need. But the actual active skills that we are using, we have first and foremost strategic rush. This is basically for you to just dive in on an enemy and hit them. If you hit them into the wall, they get stunned, which is fantastic, especially when it comes to like bosses and stuff. If you're standing next to a boss and you charge into them, you'll push them back as far as they can go, most bosses anyway, and you will hit them into a wall and you can do huge damage and also stun and get aggression onto you as well. So you know, it's just the great opening move that you should have. Then we have provoking roar. This is your kind of bread and butter as a tank. You need to get the focus onto you, and essentially within 3 meter radius you will potentially get 6 opponents to start attacking you. This is very useful in dungeons, obviously. You know, this is how you get enemies to face you while all your DPS do all their DPSing and the healers keep you alive. Pretty straightforward, that's all you need. Then we have Stunning Blow. Deals 150% of base damage with an 80% chance to stun the target for 2.5 seconds. This is extremely useful, and this is, you know, just what you should be using as a tank because there are certain bosses and certain enemies that essentially need to be crowd controlled. So what it is they're going to do a big huge move that does a lot of damage and you need to stop them. This can be done in many ways, but stunning is also one of them, and as the tank, when you're right on top of the boss or the enemy that you're facing, you need to stun them. So this is essentially your bread and butter as a tank again. Now, because we have a passive skill tied to this as well, next up we follow with the Cruel Smite. So this is a different move that I've put some specialization into, but it's basically a combo move, so you just do a bunch of damages. So if you stun them and your 2 moves, the Death Blow and the Guillotine Blade, are on cooldown, this is the move that you will use to do increased damage because they are stunned. Then we have the Will Breaker. This will essentially weaken bosses and enemies. So any enemies that are around you, you do a big swiping move and it will weaken them and it will reduce their defenses by 540 for 6 seconds. This is very important, especially when you're fighting chunky bosses. Next we have Witty Strike. This will allow you to hit twice, I believe, and you'll get, you know, some mana back every target you hit. So if you've got several enemies around you, you can hit them all and get a whole bunch of mana back. Now as a tank, your mana is obviously very important because you're using these abilities to keep enemies on you and defend and tank everywhere you need to. So this here is a very good way to get some mana back, but on top of that, you need to level it up quite a bit for it to actually make a difference, because as you can see, it costs me 125 mana to use, but I only recover 120 mana. So if I level this up, I'll be getting way more mana recovery. So every time I use it, I'll be getting mana back off a single target. Then if there are multiple enemies, I'll be getting huge mana given back to me. So I need to level this up. I just don't have the growth books at the moment. This is one of the latest additions to this build. Then we basically have Death Blow and Guillotine Blade, which are essentially the same move, except Guillotine Blade is a lot more powerful and has a longer cooldown. So the cooldown on this move, you can pretty much get 2 death blows out before they kind of come back. So essentially you're looking to stun someone, hit them with Guillotine Blade, use Death Blow twice within the time that this is recovering, and then you can stun again, do Guillotine Blade again, and then do Death Blow. Honestly, I always mess it up and the cooldowns are all out of place, but these are your 2 big damaging moves. So this one here is 450% of base damage plus 138 against bound, sleeping, shocked or stunned targets. Damage increases by 30%. So you stun, you use that, you're doing huge damage. Guillotine Blade deals 630% base damage plus 80 damage. Deals 819% of base damage plus 104 damage to collision, prone or shocked targets. That's a lot to say. On hit, it also weakens the target. So these are kind of like your bread and butter, big powerful moves, blast everyone around and kill everyone. That's all they're for. Now obviously there are more intricacies to a build, but I'm just talking generally, that's what it's for. Next up we have the Gaia's Crash, which turns into Frost Cleaving through Specialization, which I'll show in a second. And this just does a lot of damage around an AoE attack that does, you know, decent damage, but also if you've got multiple enemies on you or one of them straying, you can call them back and get aggression onto you just by hitting them. I need way more growth books to get this build all the way up. Next up we have Da Vinci's Courage. Increases max health by 960, health regen by 240, and attack speed by 15% for 12 seconds for party members within a 15-meter radius. Healing yourself is very important as a tank. You know, you really do hope that you have really good healers, but at times you might need to just get a little bit extra health out of nowhere, and you can also help your teammates. So this is another kind of bread and butter for the tank build, but it is not the way to keep yourself alive, but it will help a lot. So, you know, that's pretty cool in my opinion. So one of the latest ones I've added is Shield Strike, and on top of that Counter Barrier, because these two kind of play off each other a little bit. So Shield Strike essentially is a damaging move that weakens targets, and each successful counter attack while using Counter Barrier decreases the cooldown for this move. Now this move only has a 6-second cooldown anyway, so it's not that big of a deal, but if you can get extra cooldown, why not? You can use this as often as you possibly can. And then Counter Barrier next to that is increases shield block chance by 29.5% for 6 seconds. Every time you use this, you will basically make yourself more likely to defend against a move or anything like that. So these two together work pretty well. I'm very sure that there are different abilities that I could use, but right now I haven't found a way to just kind of make it all work. This has been my most consistent build so far. Whew, we're still going. Before we get onto passives, we're going to go to skill specialization. So Cruel Smite basically used to be Valiant Brawl until you equip the Cruel Smite. It just is a better version of Valiant. So then we also have aggro increased, so aggression increased upon hit. For Stunning Blow, we want the skill cooldown decreased by 15%, which is incredible because you're going to be stunning a lot of people. And, you know, specifically if you're in a position where you need to stun a boss, having this extra cooldown will just make it a little bit more consistent. We have increased damage, so the next skill you use, you'll get a skill boost, damage boost. You have a skill hit chance, so more likely to hit the stun, and then the stun duration up by 1 second. this is going to be what you, I think, one of the ones you put the most into. Da Vinci's Courage, effect duration increased by 3 seconds and recovers health by 200% of base damage plus 200. So the more base damage you have, the more health you'll get back from popping this. So very, very important. Then we have Death Blow. And Death Blow and Guillotine Blade are going to have the same 2 perks. So damage increased by 100% based on charging time. So you can end this earlier and do a big damage. Whoa, what was that then that just popped up? The Death Blow and Guillotine Blade are basically going to have the same 2 perks, right? Damage increased by 100% based on charging time. So these moves you can stop halfway through a charging time and do slightly less damage. The more you charge it, the more damage it does. Same for Guillotine Blade, but it's just a little bit more destructive on Guillotine Blade. And then we have cooldown reduction, so skill cooldown reduction for both of them. That just keeps them in line with each other, so you can use 1 Guillotine Blade, 2 Death Blows, 1 Guillotine Blade, 2 Death Blows. Oh my god, this is a lot to say. Whew. And then Will Breakout, upon hit, the target's magic, melee, ranged evasion decreased by 300. So, you know, just a good thing to have. You're weakening enemies, but also allowing them to not be able to evade attacks as well. Then we go to the sword, which honestly you'd think would be what you'd put most into, being a tank, but I just found so much more coming from the Greatsword. It was incredible. Shield Strike, we're going with the damage, target's aggression greatly increases. You're trying to pull them people to you. Provoking Roar, duration increased, and also cooldown increased or decreased. You get it back sooner, you know, so you constantly, honestly, just always shouting at people, like I'm kind of doing into this microphone right now. And then Witty Strike, we have also recovers stamina by 12 per target, and on top of that you can use Witty Strike 2 times. So, you know, the more targets you have, the more mana you get back and the more everything you get back, and also you can use it twice. Whew, that's the skill. Specialization sorted. There's probably a few things I could swap around, but this is just what's been best to me. I kind of wish I had extra points to throw into counter barrier, but it is what it is. Then we go over to the passives, which is over here. So I went with, I think there's a few better than I can have. I've got a new addition, so, you know, feel free to look at these and swap them around. But first and foremost, most important, robust constitution. You want to get this as high as possible, mastered as quickly as you can, because you get a huge increase to max health and a big increase to health regen. Just what you need as a tank. Then we have Vital Force, increases melee, magic and ranged hit chances by X amount, skill damage boost by X amount, and stun chance by X amount per 100 of max health. So this will directly impact this, and you will have a higher stun chance as well as those other things that we just spoke about. So these two work really well together. Then we have this one here, the Cold Warrior. Basically increases chances to hit an enemy on a shocked or stunned target. You're going to be stunning quite a lot, as we know, doing more damage and stuff like that. It's just a really, really good combo of perks here for the passive skills. And then I went with the Indomitable Armor, and I don't know if this is the best one to choose, but essentially taking damage grants a 25% chance to increase melee, magic and ranged defenses by X amount for 2 seconds. So if you're in a fight, you know that 2 seconds is a bit of a letdown, but I feel like getting a few extra defense against like one hit may turn the tide in certain fights. If I was to change this out, I probably would go maybe with Victor's Morale, so I'm getting that health and mana back, you know, but I'm not too sure. I might swap them out and have a look at some points. Then we move on to the Sword and Shield passives that we have. So this is my new one that I just put in, the Skillful Evasion. Increases magic and ranged evasion by X amount per 1 meter of proximity to the target within a 10 meter radius up to X amount. Additionally, increases magic, melee and ranged evasions by up to X amount against provoked targets. Now you're going to be provoking people, so you know you're going to get those evasions up. I feel like this would work really well. I just don't have anything right now to grow it up past green to make it blue or purple or something, so that's my new addition. Then we have the Resilient Mind. Evading attack restores X amount of mana, and each successful shield block or defense skill block restores mana equal to 22% of that damage blocked. Additionally restores health, so this is you going to be getting your mana back and your health back. Then we have the Aegis Shield. Increases magic, melee and ranged defenses by X amount per 1% of shield block chance. Always increases shield damage reduction by 2.5% or X amount, whatever level it's at. So this is basically just going to be a huge increase to your defenses. Just generally passively, that you're not even going to have to think about it, that's just there. And then our last one is Spectrum of Agony. Attack a victim of the user's provoking roar or cleaving roar, extends the remaining duration of the effect by X amount and deals 51% or X amount of damage to all nearby targets with provoking roar or cleaving roar within a 3-meter radius. So you hit a roar, you do some damage, you do extra damage, just generally better things. This is also one that I don't know if I want, but for right now I'm just leaving it in there. That is all the skills. Gosh, that was a lot. And that is kind of everything I wanted to talk about. I'm fairly sure I probably missed a few things, but I'm trying not to make this video be too long. But this is my specific tank build based off other people's ideas and thoughts, and just kind of made to be what I want to play like, how I feel like playing. And you know, I'm enjoying it a lot. Oh, also champion. I always forget to use my champion guardian type thing, but I use the brutal warrior Valcog because it accumulates damage when hit up to 4000% of your max base damage. When you inflict stun, bind or sleep on an enemy, 25% of that accumulated damage is dealt to that enemy. So obviously this just works well with a tank who's going to be stunning people and can take damage. So that is everything for this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you for watching. I've been Easy. Now you guys have been awesome.